Hello, welcome to Veteran Voice. I'm your host, Larry McCullaugh. I'm glad you've tuned in for today's program. My guest today is probably a familiar face to a lot of you if you've seen anything to do with veterans in the last 2 years. She organized the World War II DC trip. She's very active in World War II and Veterans Affairs, and we're going to do some talking today about the Blue Star Mothers. Sandy Hart, it's good to have you on the show again,
Good to
dear.
be here again.
It's always good to see you're a hardworking lady, and you've taken on another project now that we're going to try to inform the people about today and see if we can get a local chapter started of the Blue Star Mothers. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You know, a lot of people have connected me with the World War II vets, but you know better. I mean, you know that I'm involved with all of the veterans and 15 other projects, but the ones that are serving now are close to our hearts, close to all of our hearts, and everybody wants to know a way of reaching out to them. A few years ago when my mom was still alive, I had run across a picture while we were going through family pictures that I've probably seen dozens of times and never noticed. It was taken outside because they used to save the flash whenever they could, and it was taken toward the house, and there was a star in the window. And I said, "Mom, what's that star about?" And she says, "You don't know what that star is for?" She says, "We put blue stars in our windows when we had someone in the service. It was because your daddy was in. There was one blue star. Your grandma Jordan, she had your daddy and his brother. There were two blue stars." And she said then your grandma Watson had four sons in at the same time, so she had four stars in her window. She says the dreaded one was if you lost someone, there was a gold star in the window instead. But it allowed the other families around to know that family needed more support, more understanding, and they were there for them. Everybody was there for each other then because there wasn't a family without someone in the service. It continued during other wars, but it wasn't as supported since World War II. The Blue Star Mothers have been involved since the beginning. That's how they get started. It says, the origin and history of the Blue Star Mothers of America. On January 22nd, 1942, the Flint News Advertiser printed a coupon in their newspaper asking the mothers of servicemen to fill it out, give their name and address and telephone number, and also the number of boys and their names in the various branches of the armed forces. On February 1st, 1942, over 300 mothers met for the first time at the Rand Hotel in Flint, Michigan. Captain George H. Maines, who had conceived the idea for the group, acted as chairman. He reported that over 1,000 applications had been received by the News Advertiser. It was decided to form a permanent organization to be known as the Blue Star Mothers. Temporary officers were chosen. On February 6th, the story of the organization of the Blue Star Mothers was published in full in the Congressional Record in Washington, D.C. On March 8th, over 600 mothers attended a meeting at Flint High School auditorium. It goes on from there. It talks about the chapters were quickly organized throughout Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin. In June, both Michigan and Wisconsin instituted departments. May 43, Department of Ohio was organized. September 45, Department of California was instituted, with Pennsylvania and New York not far behind. It goes on to tell, this spread throughout the country. And as I said, there wasn't any home that wasn't involved some way or another with someone serving back then. The eligibility of it is a mother, adopted mother, or stepmother. A stepmother is eligible for membership in the Blue Star Mothers of America. She can claim that eligibility only if she has given a mother's care to a stepchild from the age of 13 and under. If they live in the United States, if they have a son or daughter serving in the armed forces for the United States, or they have a son or daughter who have served and has been honorably discharged from the armed forces of the United States. It's for all the branches. It's for anybody serving our country. And it's a way, like I said, of combining them. Well, this was all interesting to me. I didn't know as much about it as I do now because I received a phone call recently from a lady. We have her name that we'll be showing. Deborah called me, and she had a meeting with our friend General Beavers, and she wanted to know how we could get this started strong in Western Kentucky, that it had not reached here in a strong way. And they told them to call me.
Let me ask you, can a blue star, the blue star then represents a son that is in the military?
Or a daughter.
Or
No.
daughter, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm still having a rough time.
I know.
Now, does that mean in a combat zone or in peril, or does that just mean on active duty? Or
No, we think of it more with the ones on the front lines, but it's anyone who has a son or daughter because anything can happen. They've all joined up to fight some enemy, some evil that's fighting our country, that's against our country or a country that we're helping. But a lot of them do that in the offices back home. They do that in many ways behind the scenes, and those people are doing their duties too. So it's for anyone who has or has had a son or daughter in the military.
so, like the people who were in the 2113th that went over to Iraq and served, all of their mothers or parents would be qualified to
Absolutely.
go ahead and hang the Blue Star
The
banner
Blue
in their
Star. The
window.
only difference now is there's a lot of different ways that they have to show how we're proud of our sons and daughters, husbands and wives that are over there. They're a Blue Star. It's $10 to join the organization. I mean, that's great that it's such a minimal amount. And there's lapel pins that they can get. There are also Blue Star Dad lapel pins, not just for the mothers, and Blue Star, I forget what they call it, but anyway, like an associate, someone who is interested in it that doesn't have a child or son or whatever, a daughter or son over there. You can wear that. You can buy the lapel pin. You can give donations to this organization to help what they're doing. But the biggest thing is we want to show support. We also want the organizations to be involved with finding these families and being a comfort to them. And that's a way for them to know. If VFW member sees a flag in the window of the Blue Star, they're going to know that that's a family that they may want to reach out to, that may need their help in some way or another. It's their comfort. And so that's what we want to do. We want to reach out to these families. We want to find them. We want to get this local. We want it to where we can, and it's the future of our organizations, our VFW, our American Legion, our DAV. When a lot of the guys came back from World War II, from Korea, from Vietnam, they didn't reach out and go to these places. They stayed at home. They couldn't talk to their families. They didn't know what to do. They held so much in, and it caused a lot of problems. The families didn't know who to turn to. They didn't know how to talk to them. Once they connect with an organization, you know that. You've got somebody to talk to. You've got somebody to communicate. You have someone that understands.
So it's a nationally congressionally organized or congressionally chartered organization, just like the Veterans Service Organization.
Absolutely.
And what you're attempting to do then is see if we can start getting some local chapters that could open up here in Western Kentucky and Paducah. And
Right.
do you know about how many is required to start a chapter? Do they have a minimum number?
No,
or
but I'll
anything?
find out. They can call my number.
Okay.
Everybody knows it, 335-3128. And I'll be getting more and more information on this. They can get on the internet. There is a connection somewhere among my papers. It's www.bluestarmothers.org. Okay. And they can have some questions. There are sign-up sheets that I'm giving you to take back to the organizations to where they can actually fill them out themselves. Okay. And join. But like I said, we really would rather do it to where there is a unit of them here, to where everybody knows everybody else and they have this thing in common and they can comfort one another, and we can reach out and be there in case they have any needs.
So it's going to help in a lot of different ways. It's going to identify the Blue Star Mothers to the public because they're going to be able to see the banner that they've got in the window. It's going to help the Veterans Service organizations know that, hey, we need to check with these folks from time to time, make sure see if they need this snow shoveled or the lawn cut or whatever. Check with them just to make sure everything's going okay. Plus, it's a real way of the family showing their pride in the fact that they've got a loved one who's serving their country right now and will be a veteran sometime. But for the time being, they're making the sacrifices, and the family's making a lot of sacrifices too. That's something that this latest war on terror has taught me that I really had not given a lot of thought to before. Since Vietnam was the longest back when I was in, and since then there have been some minor skirmishes. But now that I think I saw on the calendar that the War of Terror is going to be 5 years old come this Friday or Saturday, I believe it was. I flipped over the calendar yesterday
And yet, thank
and
God,
noticed
we've
that.
lost less
Yeah,
than any other war for the time that everyone has served. The thing is during World War II, everybody felt for each other. Everybody, we've talked about this before, everybody was part of the effort. Korea, it was still somewhat. People were tired from World War II and they didn't want them back in, and they couldn't believe that they were involved again. Vietnam, we don't even want to talk about Vietnam. It was pitiful, the lack of support that our veterans got, that their families got. It was almost, I remember families leery of saying, my son is in Vietnam. For the first time in my life, I was seeing people hesitate to say that they had someone overseas. I saw guys come home and totally withdraw from the lack of support from their country. Now, like I told you before, there were a lot of us that were supportive of them. We didn't know how to reach out. And they weren't connecting right. Now, once they started connecting with each other, it was better, but it was still like this group of guys saying, the world's against us, we got to stick together. And it shouldn't have been that way. The United States should have been more supportive of our guys. And you and I both talked about how we've seen that try and sneak in again, but nobody's going to let it happen this time.
This time, I think that, and I've preached this before on this program, that regardless of your politics on whether it was right or wrong or anything, we've still got to support the troops. They took the step forward. They took the oath. Once you're in the military, unless you're up there pretty high on the food chain, you go where you're told to go, and you do what you're told to do, and that's the long and the short of it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Otherwise, you end up in trouble. And I think that because of the way that you pointed out that Vietnam veterans got treated when they came back, I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of the young people today are getting the support that they are from the communities. And I think that that's a good thing. If nothing else, that I think is one of the few positive things that came out of the Vietnam era, is that they no longer hold the warrior responsible for the war. They know who's made the decisions to get us in on that, and whether they're against it or for it, I could care less about. That's your politics. But you got to take care of the young men and women who are over there putting their life on the line, because it's just a lot like Vietnam. There's no safe place. There's no front line. I never saw a rocket come in that said grunts only on it. Truck drivers, that used to be the fellas in the jungle, were worried about getting killed. Now all you got to do is drive down the road in Iraq, and you're a real good target with these roadside bombs and stuff. So we need to show them the respect and support that they need. And I think that this is a great way to get it started.
I do too. We talked about, I wore a button that said never again. And what it really stood for in the first place was I bought it at the Holocaust Museum. And we would never again in this world let anything happen like that happened during World War II. People just being slaughtered because of what they were. And so it stood for something really special, that we would never again let atrocities happen. Of course, they still slip in, but we're out there sooner. And when America knows about it, they're trying to. But when I wore that button, some of the guys and gals connected with Vietnam thought that never again will this country treat their own military like that. And that was a sad time. That was really sad when we can't erase that this country as a whole did not stand behind their own servicemen that they sent into danger. The danger's always been there. The danger was in World War II. A lot of them were German, and they were over, in Germany with guys being able to put on American uniforms over there, and the same type thing went on. They were in great danger, and they could be attacked, and we had the largest amount of Americans killed during World War II. So the dangers were there, but the support from the Hart was there from the people. It wasn't there during Vietnam. It was there during Korea, like I said. Thank God it didn't last as long, but our men were slaughtered in positions there too. It was terrible what happened in Korea, but when they came home, someone was there to buy them a meal, to take them in a cab for free, to help them with a bill, All sorts of support was there for the Korean War vet. It wasn't there for Vietnam vet. So a lot of people thought that button I wore said, never again would I take a big trip like I did with 17 buses, raising the equivalent of $400,000. But it didn't mean that. I don't know that I would ever do the same exact thing again, but I would go to the hilt for our veterans who have served us.
You know, that button that says never again could apply to so many different things.
Yeah.
And you might be talking to 3 or 4 people and they're all looking at the button and they're all thinking something different.
It's one of those things where you can just put it on and not say a word about it and walk in a room and start half a dozen conversations around the room.
Exactly.
But the reason that the support is there for these guys is because the sad thing is most of our World War II vets are gone. And we're losing them daily in huge numbers, much faster than when we talked about it a few years back. The Korean War vets were their kid brothers, and we're losing them at a fast pace too. Right now, the largest amount of veterans that are living and on this earth right now are Vietnam veterans. And they're saying, we will never let these young people be treated the way that we were. We're going to be the ones out welcoming them home. Now, I wasn't in Vietnam, of course, but that was my generation. And I remember hurting because they were hurting and not knowing what to do as a young person. I know what to do now. And so there I say, this is a great idea. Again, the Blue Star Mothers, us organizing in some way to reach out and have them have some mark to let them know that we identify you and we're going to be there for you.
So the main way to probably get a chapter started is we're gonna get these applications passed around to all the veteran service organizations. So they will be available at the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the DAV. Those are the 3 primary. The Vietnam Veterans of America meet at the VFW. They do not have a building of their own. So, and they're smaller organization, both at the local level and at the national level. I mean, they're still the new kid on the block when it comes to veteran service organizations. And what you said is true. That's in their opening pledge that they say is never again will one generation of veterans forget another. And that's been a long time ago because of the way we're treated. There are still fellows that are bitter about that. Personally, I'm glad it finally came around and we're getting respect now. But we feel that as veterans, all veterans should support the next generation. And we will try to instill that in these young people coming back today, is that don't think this is the last war. I'm sure we'll find somebody else to go try to straighten out their life or their country one of these days. So when those veterans come back, and they might be your children, you got to remember what's being done for you now so that you can pass that on down the line and make sure that the fighting men and women of this country are taken care of. So where do we go from here with the Blue Star project?
Well, I did find out late last night, and I haven't been able to contact her. I did get good news that there is a lady that started something in Katy, so we can go over there and connect with her, and it's a little bit closer to home to be able to make the connections to know how to get a chapter started here.
Do you know where the nearest chapter is by any chance?
Well, that's why I say Katie's would be it.
Katie's is the nearest?
That's it,
And
from what I was
that's the
told
only one?
last night. That's the only one we have. And I can't imagine us not having this in the Paducah area. And then it's spreading out from there because we all know that Paducah is the most...
draws the most fire.
Well, no, they're patriotic.
Yes.
They're patriotic. When you figure that not just right here in Paducah, but Paducah, when we were doing the trip, over 85% of that money was raised in the West Kentucky area. But we know who helped start it was the Paducah area. I mean, the whole project was started in Ballard County, but we couldn't have possibly run this kind of money through just talking it up in Ballard County. But the media is wonderful. But the people here in Western Kentucky, in this area, are just the most patriotic people I've ever seen. Yeah. They'll do anything for our veterans. They're right there for it. People have asked how we managed to get publicity for our veterans here because they can't begin to get it anywhere else. You know, as you remember, we got a little bit of publicity in other places when I was doing my thing, but they didn't have the fire, they didn't have the drive to support their military like Paducah does in the surrounding area.
We are fortunate in Paducah to have the type of news media that we do, and just like here at West Kentucky Community and Technical College, the fact that they put this program on and allow us to do this and talk about nothing but veterans issues on this program, and it's been going on for almost 2 years now, and there is interest out there. You know, I do hear about it, and I think it's great. Just recently, we had 10 fellows that were down in Mississippi that had received their desert training, were getting ready to go over to Iraq, and we were able to bring them back up to Paducah for the barbecue on the river, and to let them spend 4 or 5 days with their families before they were going to be shipped overseas. And it may be the last time they see them, but the community opened up, the businesses opened up, the news media opened up, and we raised enough money to get the fellows back up here. And there were 30 in all. There was another group of 10 from Richmond and another group of 10 from Louisville. And all the organizations worked together to get the fellows up here. The Masons were heavily involved. A lot of the other, I can't name them all. I'd leave somebody out. But the community itself and the people in the community and the businesses in the community really came forward to help us get that done. And so you're right. We are really blessed and fortunate to have the type of people with the attitude that they do around here. And there are those against the war, and they're certainly entitled to their opinion. But when it comes right down to supporting the local people that we're doing, these organizations and the businesses and the people really step out and do the job properly.
Well, everybody's got a right to be for or against anything. I mean, our military fought to give them that right. Mm-hmm. If somebody's out protesting something, they wouldn't have the freedom to protest if it had not been for our military doing what they do. And I always want to point that out foremost. They can feel one way or the other about a war. I don't glorify war, and I never did glorify war. But by golly, glorify our troops. Brag on our troops that's out there on the front lines for us and trying to do everything they can to maintain our freedom and our right to stand out and agree or disagree with something.
I remember many years ago, before the Vietnam Veterans of America joined the national organization, it started as a small support group of Vietnam veterans of just 8 or 10 of us. And I really set off a powder keg one night when I told the guys, if you really get down and be honest about it, we knew North Vietnam was not going to invade the United States. So you were basically fighting for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So in essence,
look what's there now.
That's right.
I mean, I just saw films of Vietnam of people
yeah, they're getting
in
our
Vietnam
money.
on the show
They're getting our money now, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's a great place to go. You know, everybody's wanting to go to see Vietnam now, except for some of our Vietnam vets.
Well, no, there's a lot of Vietnam.
A lot of them do too, but there's still some that, I hope the hurt can go by the wayside somewhat, and I hope it lessens for all of them. But I agree with we should never forget. There shouldn't, just like remember the Alamo, and it seems like it all started back then. There's some things we should never allow to happen the same way. We should learn from our mistakes. And I'm originally from St. Louis, you remember. My roots are down here. My mom and daddy were born down here. And I've heard about Kentucky my whole life. But I was raised in St. Louis. And it's not like I couldn't have pulled something off in St. Louis. St. Louis is a great place. But my sister, when she comes down here, she's a little thrown by me being out there because I was such a shy kid and a shy adult for a long time. But the thing is, the people around here bring something out in you, the love and the admiration they have for each other. With our military, the way that they're just right there. You could not do the things that you do. I know in Ballard County, it's even more so than Paducah because it's a small area. But one of the guys that came home from Iraq said how, the hay was pitched and all of this. Everything was done by the neighbors. They came in and swooped down. This was not a teenager that went back over there to help serve our country again. And he says they just took over and did. The neighbors made sure that the wife and the kids had no needs that weren't taken care of. And that was wonderful. Everybody in a small community can kind of keep an eye out. But sometimes you come over even to Paducah, and 3 doors down you don't know the names of the people living there or what they're going through or if they have someone in the military or not. And that's why the veterans organizations are so wonderful. I mean, all of them. And it's great to hear about something like the Blue Star Mothers where the moms get to get in on it. And the dads, like we talked about before, the dads can get involved with Blue Star Dads. But the truth is, the organization itself is the strength of mothers. I told you earlier, and I guess it's a good time to throw it in, that my son got injured when he was in service, not in battle or anything, but he got injured another way back home. And when I finally found out what it was, because he wasn't a crybaby, he didn't tell me, he didn't write home and let me know what was going on, and his daughter finally it's not his daughter, my daughter-in-law, his wife, called me and said, Mom, I can't get anything done. What can you do? And I found out who his commanding officer is, so I called the commanding officer's commanding officer. And I said, I need to know what's going on with my son. And he said, right now he belongs to us. And I said, he's on loan to you. He's mine forever. So he got his MRIs, and we found out what the damage was and everything, and it was severe. But the thing was, I've been told since I was a little girl that there's nothing more powerful than the word of a mother, the letter of a mother, the voice of a mother. So Blue Star Mothers has my support.
Absolutely. So we're going to have the applications at the Veteran Service Organizations that the
Right.
ladies can pick up. Now, do they go to the national organization? Is that where the applications end up at? Do you know?
Right. The applications end up at the national, just like yours. You have the local chapter, but then everything goes to national level.
Okay. So eventually, what we're hoping is that we're going to get enough people together that we can that we can get a chapter started here, and that's probably, I would imagine, a month or 2 or 3 down the road, especially
Right.
with the holidays coming up shortly. A lot of people get sidetracked on that. Do you figure that the Blue Star organization at the national level will provide the local people with some kind of a list or phone numbers, or will they just take it upon themselves to do like the World War II vets and meet at Ryan's?
I'm going to be back. I don't know. We don't know yet because it's in the beginning stages,
Okay.
and everything begins with an idea. We have a partial information of it. We need the moms to know that they can now start getting in touch with us, and we go from there. We'll find them a way and a place. We can do it at Ryan's. I mean, we can do it anywhere they want. We can do it in homes, whatever. But the biggest thing is to organize them in the first place. They may have to go to one of your organizations and have help to have a meeting place.
We'll be there. We'll
Wherever
find a
they
way
want.
to do
You
it.
always are.
We'll find a way to do it. Well, this is the Chinese proverb that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and I think that we've taken the first step here today to try and get this thing started. And I would encourage the families out there who have got someone on active duty to contact either the American Legion or the Veterans of Foreign Wars or the DAV. The DAV is not there all the time, but the other organizations usually have someone present. We'll make sure that the applications are there, and we'll get this rolling. So, and as always, Sandy, since you're in the middle of it, I have no doubt that it will be successful.
Well,
And
the biggest thing is I want you in the middle of it. I
Well,
want the
we're-
vets in the middle of it, because somebody said the other day, if something isn't right, if you want something done, call Sandy Hart. And I said, no, I call the vets.
We'll work
Because
as
the
a team.
veterans get it done.
We'll work as a team on this one then, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to leave them with a phone number now, Sandy, so they can get a hold of you. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of Veteran Voice, and we'll see you next time.